So for us to understand the gospel, what the gospel is, we need to understand what a gospel was.
Yeah.
And the gospel had a clear meaning in the first century. One of the confusing things is that the term euangelion, which is translated as good news, well, that's the confusing thing. It's translated as good news, which is not very well defined because there's lots of things that could be good news. So then we're left to go, okay, what is good news about the gospel? And then we find things that are good news and say, well, the gospel means good news. This thing, such as Jesus dying for sins, well, that's good news. So
that must be
tie
good
it together,
news.
the gospel. Except the term euangelion, the Greek word euangelion, which is translated as good news or gospel in our Bibles, didn't have a broad meaning as good news. It had a specific meaning. So let me read here from the Holman Illustrated Bible Dictionary. It says, the noun euangelion originally signified announcement of victory after battle and later the content of that message. The term also came to describe the birth or rise to power of a new king.
So it's a political word.
It's a political message. And here's something a little bit more expanded from the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, which says that the gospel, euangelion, had two primary meanings in the Greco-Roman world of the first century. First use is that the term becomes a technical one for news of victory. And secondly, euangelion is particularly important in the emperor cult. The emperor is a divine ruler who controls nature, dispenses healing, serves as a protective god, and brings good fortune, his birth being accompanied by cosmic signs. The first euangelion is news of his birth, then his coming of age, then his accession to the throne. Offerings and yearly festivals celebrate the new and more hopeful era that dawns with him. His accession to the throne is a gospel for his subjects. So a gospel in the first century was a political message. It had two primary meanings. It was either news of victory in battle or the announcement of a new king by either birth or accession to the throne.
Yeah.
And they're both, you could call them both kingdom announcements, because one is victory in battle is either maintaining the kingdom or expanding the kingdom. And then obviously the news of a new ruler is also a kingdom announcement.
Yeah.
And that's what a gospel was in the first century. And that makes total sense when you see how Jesus and the apostles took the term gospel and applied it to the Christian message.